Hi, everybody. It's Jen here from Holistic Hope. I hope you're having a good day today. I wanted to talk today about a couple of things that I think everyone with anxiety needs to know. They're kind of anxiety basics, but I think they're really essential to understand when you're dealing with anxiety and understanding what's going on in your body. So, the first is the stress response, and the second is the stress cycle. And so we're going to start off talking about the stress response since it's part of the stress cycle. Okay. So your stress response is kind of where everything starts. And it's something that every mammal experiences. There's nothing wrong with it. It's important. It's a protective mechanism in the body. It's automatic. Um, but when we start to deal with chronic and debilitating anxiety and anxiety disorders, our stress response becomes highly reactive. So it's going to trigger more often, it's going to trigger more easily, and it's going to trigger when it doesn't need to. And all of this starts in a tiny area of the brain called the amygdala. Now, the amygdala is about the size of an almond. It's also known as the brain's watchdog, and it is what decides if something is a threat or not. So we are constantly being exposed to stimulus, right? And when it picks up on something as a threat, it's going to trigger a stress response. And that's going to look like this kind of sequence of chemical events. So it's going to communicate with our hypothalamus gland, which is going to communicate with our pituitary gland, which will then communicate with our adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands are going to dump out some hormones, particularly adrenaline. And those hormones are going to give us the physical sensations that we experience with anxiety, right? Our heart rate is going to increase. Our respiration rate is going to increase. Our digestion is going to slow down. We can experience feelings of shaking or hot flashing or flushing or a tunnel vision, even with some people. So it can be a little bit different for everybody and given on and different per situation, but we always expect the respiration rate to go up and the heart rate to go up. Okay. What's happening is the body is mobilizing itself for action, for danger, to address this threat. It's also going to decide what our best option is for addressing this threat. Is that running away? Is that fighting? Or if neither of those are an option, freezing, right? There also is collapsing, fawning, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll just stick with fight, flight, and freeze. Okay. So the stress response looks like that. And a couple of things that are important to know about the stress response. The stress response is automatic. So it's not something that you consciously decide. You don't go, okay, let's mobilize. Let's do this, right? It's automatic. And usually before we even have a conscious thought. After the stress response, the conscious thought or the conscious part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex is going to kick in and it's going to say, okay, was I right? Are we in danger? Right? And if we're not, that stress response is going to like go pretty quickly, right? So, for example, if you are at a friend's house and maybe you went to the bathroom and they were hiding outside the door, you come out and they scream at you, you're going to have a stress response. But then also very quickly, you're going to know I'm not actually in any danger, right? So the body will calm down quite quickly. Whereas if you were maybe having anxiety, having a panic attack, and your stress response went, maybe because your blood sugar was too low, and you had a stress response because of that, and then you're reacting to the sensations and you don't know what the threat is. It's very easy for when that thinking part of your brain checks in to go, oh, maybe I am in danger. I don't know. What if I pass out? What if I have this? What if I have that? Right? And then the body is going to trigger another stress response. And we can end up with that cyclic or rebound anxiety. Okay. So that's kind of what happens during a stress response itself. Remembering that at the end of it, the body kind of decides fight, flight, or freeze. Now, in a lot of cases, it's going to be fight or flight, right? We see freeze a lot with situations that are incredibly overwhelming, like really life or death situations, right? Um, So, for example, if I was hiking and a bear walked out in front of me, I mean, brain's going to go really quickly, like, I can't outrun that bear. And like, I'm pretty tough, but I can't fight a bear either. Right. And so I'm going to freeze because there isn't another option as far as my brain is concerned. We often see freeze responses in children because they can't fight or run away, right? We often see freeze responses in people with chronic anxiety too that have experienced high levels of stress for a long period of time because it's also like kind of a last option for when the body still needs to be in a survival state, but it can't stay in sympathetic, right? We can't stay in sympathetic all that time and be experiencing all of those sensations forever. That wouldn't be good for us. But if the body doesn't feel safe, it might put us into sympathetic, or excuse me, into the dorsal state, which is the freeze state. Okay, so let's put that together now into our stress cycle. So the stress cycle is also known as the arousal cycle. And what it looks like very quickly, and we'll get into these more in depth in a minute, is some kind of stimulus, the stress response, action, homeostasis. Okay. Um, Animals, our animal friends, are the perfect examples of a successful stress cycle. So we can use our cheetah and gazelle example for this, right? If a gazelle is out munching some grass and it hears a sound, right? The sound is the stimulus. It is going to have a stress response. It's going to mobilize, and its body is going to decide to run away, right? In most cases, because it's going to go, I can't fight a cheetah. It's far enough away that I have a chance, so I don't have to freeze. So I'm going to run. The action is it's actually going to run, right? And then it's going to return to homeostasis once the threat is gone. The body will start to calm, it will return to safety. The arousal cycle is completed. Charlie says hi. He is reacting to a stimulus, right? He's mobilizing to see if it's dangerous. And if that door was open, he would run out to address it, when in reality, it's somebody walking by our house. Okay, so animal kingdom, very easily complete an arousal cycle. Now, stress in the animal kingdom is very different than stress in our lives, right? It isn't as simple as fighting and running away anymore. But our bodies didn't get that memo. They don't know what to do when we get cut off in traffic. They don't know what to do when somebody yells at us, or you get an unexpected bill in the mail, or you turn on the news and it's like bombing this, bombing that. We're constantly being bombarded with stress. And we've never learned, most of us, how to properly really express this. So we often skip the action step and we try to go right to homeostasis. And what we think is homeostasis is actually freeze. Okay. Let's think about the things that we've been traditionally told to do with our stress responses. We've been told, oh, take a deep breath, maybe meditate, maybe say some affirmations, right? All things that we can do when we're in homeostasis, but that aren't actual actions. They're not going to do anything with that increased energy, that mobilization that we've gotten from our stress response. And that's the missing step for so many of us. So we don't really complete our arousal cycles. We don't complete our stress cycles. We often just freeze. And the body will calm down and freeze, remembering that the dorsal vagal state, freeze, is parasympathetic activation, but it's still a survival state. It's not safety, and the cycle doesn't complete, right? That energy doesn't go anywhere, except it stays in our body. Okay. So let's think about this, what we would want to do instead. Actually, let's do a quick example of what it usually looks like. There's some kind of stimulus, we have a stress response, we do nothing with that energy, right? We maybe take a couple of deep breaths, which isn't a bad thing, right? Especially because we can't often just punch or run away, right? There is often a little period in between of the stimulus and our ability to be able to have an action. And then we just kind of freeze and we just, okay, my body will calm down eventually. It'll calm down eventually. It will, and it will. But again, parasympathetic activation from the dorsal state and not the release of the mobilization energy. Okay. So instead, what we want to do is stimulus, stress response, identify what our body wants to do. So, am I having a fight response? Am I having a flight response? Am I in freeze? Once you're able to identify what the body is doing and what it wants, then doing some kind of action to be able to express that energy. So, if you are having a fight response, and fight responses often come up from our interpersonal relationships. So, partners, family members, coworkers, people cutting you off in traffic, right? It is anger. We get hot. We feel like we want to punch something. We feel like we want to yell, right? So we mobilize that as fight energy and we express it in a way that is safe to us and safe to other people. And I generally recommend that that's done then on your own, right? No pets in your room, no kids in your room, no other people in your room. You are responsible for your fight energy, for your emotional regulation. And expressing that in front of other people is dysregulating to them, and that's not fair. Okay, so you're realizing that you need to have a fight response. You're going to be able to express that somewhere safe. So going to your room. And if someone else is in the house, I like tell people, like, I'm going to go do this so that they're not scared when I do it. Again, pets out of the room too. They have very sensitive nervous systems and can pick up on that. You're going to punch a pillow. You're going to do a wall push. Maybe you have a punching bag and you punch that. You can growl, you can snarl, you can take a ball and kick it or hit it. You can take paper and rip it. There's lots of different ways that we can express fight energy in a healthy way. Doing some push-ups, doing downward dog or plank, right? If it's a flight energy, again, it's not usually appropriate to just get up and run away. But that's what your body wants to do. So we need to give it some kind of relief for that. So we are going to run in a spot. If you're sitting down, you can make your legs like you're running in a spot even. You can shake out the body, shake out the arms, the legs. You can jump in a spot. You can do some havening exercises. You can do tapping, right? Try out a few different things. If you are a member of our email list, you've been emailed my flashcards that will give you some different ideas. You can join our Facebook group. They're listed in there as well. It's free just to have something close by that will remind you of some of the things that you can do in those moments. Okay. So you're going to take some kind of action for just a few minutes so that your body can properly discharge that mobilization energy. And then you're going to take the deep breaths and say the affirmations and all of the things, right? Meditate, whatever. That's when we can go into those more passive kind of things. Remind yourself that you are safe after you've discharged the energy and completed the stress cycle. Okay. So those are two things that I just wanted to talk about today. I think it's really important for everybody to be able to know. It also takes some of the fear away from what's happening in your body when you know what's going on in your body. Labeling and identifying it is helpful too. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.